the biggest thing that you can do is just put yourself in your customer's shoes. So go through the customer journey end to end when they're using your product or using your service.
Today we're joined by Director of Success, Naresh LaBar. Naresh, thank you so much for sitting down to chat with me today. I really appreciate it. Today you and I are going to talk a little bit about the fundamentals of customer success. So in your own words, could you tell me what is your definition of customer success and why is it a critical component to the overall customer experience?
For sure. For me, customer success is really just ensuring that your customers achieve the results they want from your product or your service. So for us, it's often about saving our partners time, helping them make money, making their lives easier. So I think an important thing to remember too is that it's not just driven by one person or one group. Customer success is really driven by everyone that touches the customer. So that could be a support agent solving a ticket. It could be a salesperson responding to a customer's question. It could be a developer building out a new feature, right? All of those things affect the customer experience, and all of those things are driving the customers towards success, or they should be.
So, Naresh, what attitude do you recommend folks take if they're looking to improve their overall customer experience?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that you can do is just put yourself in your customer's shoes. So go through the customer journey end to end when they're using your product or using your service. So for us in support, it could be calling into your support line, right? Seeing how long that you have to wait, how long it takes to speak to someone, how friendly were they, right? So once you have that end-to-end experience down, make sure you're taking notes. And what you can do is start to recognize the areas that maybe weren't so delightful or as easy as you had thought they were. And that'll help you start to make a game plan around it on the areas that you can improve. The second thing I would say is just make sure that you're listening to your customers and gathering feedback. They're going to tell you what's wrong in the process, right? Or the parts that have friction. So there's a couple different ways that you can collect feedback. So at Vendasta, we have Net Promoter Score, which is like an automated way to do that. It asks them, would you recommend us to a coworker or a friend at a kind of a random interval, right? And it's a good indication about how they feel about your brand. But we also ask for customer satisfaction surveys. So after every service interaction, the customer is sent a quick survey where they can say, hey, how was your service? Was it good or bad? And they have the opportunity to leave a comment. So once you start collecting those feedbacks and you have enough, you can start to pull out what those trends are. And not just the bad stuff too. You can find out, what's working well and do more of that. But you can also identify then what are the biggest things that I can focus on right now to have a big impact on my customer experience and their satisfaction.
So, Naresh, what would you say is the most critical component about the work that you do with clients?
Yeah. So as a support team, right, we're solving all different types of questions, concerns, issues, and it can really be about anything. Could be about our software, could be about something else, right? So my team is really the kind of helpful jackals at Vendasta, and our goal is really to try and resolve things right on the spot for customers, right? Because we want them to get back to work and remove those roadblocks that they might be facing. That's not always possible, so it's really important that we get their concerns or their questions escalated to someone at the company who can actually get that resolved for them, right? So that's a big part of our role. But I would say the most critical component is us acting as the advocates for our customers in the company. Often we get obviously issues reported, but also feature requests, right? Or workflows that a customer might get stuck on, right? That aren't just as intuitive as they should be, right? So the customer doesn't get to speak with those teams that created those workflows or our platform, right? So we have to act as the voice of the customer and ensure that feedback is escalated properly and that they're heard, especially when it comes to issues. We want to make sure that our internal teams understand the real customer impact of issues, especially when it comes to things like bugs.
No, that's great. I absolutely agree. Why would you say communication is a key component to the success of a customer.
Yeah. Communication is everything, especially as a reactive support team. So partners can reach out to us via phone, via chat, via email, and we have to be really effective communicators on all of those different channels. So we have to be really good at written communication. We have to be really good at verbal communication, and depending on the request, we have to be smart about which channel we use that's going to best serve the customer and provide the best experience. So, for example, if we have to explain a really long workflow to a customer, we might opt for an email. So we can do, a numbered checklist. We can provide screenshots, or maybe we'll record like a short video that just makes it super easy for them to follow along. If they've called in and maybe they're upset, right? Maybe they've run into a bug, which is kind of a normal part of the software world. We've got to be able to deliver empathy and reassure them that, hey, we're going to take care of you and we're going to fix this problem, right? That's a lot harder to do when you're communicating over email, over chat, right? You kind of lose that human touch to it. So what we try to encourage our team to do is, maybe give them a call instead, right? And that way it's much easier to deliver that. Sometimes they're trying to explain an issue to us that's just like really complex, right? So if we're doing that over an email, that could mean a lot of back and forth. It could drag out the resolution time, cause the customer to get frustrated, right? So in those cases, we've been really encouraging our team to jump on a screen share, right? And you can see the problem and explain it to each other in a much faster and efficient way. So
absolutely. Is there anything maybe that we haven't already touched on or talked about surrounding customer success, advice that you would give partners who are serving the SMB client? Anything that we haven't already talked about that you think is important to mention?
Yeah, I mean, for us, what I wanted to touch on was that we really act as the internal voice for customers at the company, and I think that's what many support teams do as well, because the customer doesn't get to speak to all the different teams that are at Vendasta, right? A lot of them aren't customer facing. So a lot of the feedback, concerns, roadblocks that our customers are facing come through our team. So it's really up to us to get that to the right place within the company and really act as that customer advocate and the voice of our customers.
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, we have a new guide out, Keep Them Satisfied, the 360 Guide to Customer Success. You're featured in the guide along with several others in the customer experience, customer success industry. What's your take on the guide, and why do you think it's important for that trusted local expert out there working with small business clients?
Yeah, I think it does a great job because we've tapped into a lot of really great minds and a lot of people that are really passionate about customer experience and customer success. So for anyone that's looking just to get into it or change how they're thinking a little bit about the customer experience and customer success, I think it's a great option.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today, Naresh. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.